Record. And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jersee Joe. It is a gorgeous, beautiful day outside.
Good. Did you get your lawn mowed this week?
I actually didn't need to mow it.
We've had so little rain, our lawn is scorched. It's brown. So we had the big, of course, we had the New York Knicks win Saturday night. We had the
Yeah.
first FIFA match.
Yep.
So everybody's good and happy here in New York City.
Yep.
By the way, it's not on my podcast, but did you hear about the plot to have drones bomb the UFC fight at the White House Saturday night and then shoot people as they were fleeing the grounds?
No, I didn't hear that, but I'm sure that they were probably anticipating something along those lines and were prepared for it.
Yeah, one of the mothers turned the kids in. We're not going to talk, but still, and this was not Islamic extreme. These were white kids, and like and like kind of Antifa. So their plot was to, and there was like they were like from six different states, and there's some whatever like a Snapchat. I forget the name. Anyway, they were plotting, and they were meeting, they were practicing, they were buying, the explosives. They were going to have explosive drones, fly. Of course, that UFC fight was all out in the open on the South Lawn. And then they were going to, set off these explosions with drones. And then as people were fleeing the White House grounds, they were going to have snipers set up outside the White House to shoot people as they were fleeing the grounds. And they were against, quote, politicians and oligarchs,
Mhm.
kind of a Antifa type of thing. Anyway, maybe we'll talk more in detail next week. But you want to hear what we're going to try to talk about today? And I guarantee you we won't get through this. I got way too much. You want to hear
Yeah,
what?
what's on the agenda?
All right, stupidest thing we heard all week. We'll tell you why tens of thousands of liberals are outraged that Elon Musk has become the world's first trillionaire, and why the logic behind their outrage is horribly flawed. And a related story, we'll share with you the results of a study that shows why more liberals suffer from serious mental conditions than conservatives, and why that is. We'll tell you about an experiment that showed the majority of Gen Z generation can't read a map and can't tell you which way is north.
I
We'll
actually
get
did see something about that on one of the news shows this past weekend.
right. A Duke University professor did a little experiment, and I did
Yeah.
my own. I did my own
Yeah.
little experiment this morning, and I'll tell you about that. We'll give you an update on criminal charges that the Southern Poverty Law Center is facing, and how often their executives invoke the Fifth Amendment during a recent congressional hearing. We'll tell you about an Air Canada pilot who flew tens of thousands of pilots for passengers for Air Canada for 17 years and never had the proper pilot's license. Did you hear about that one?
No, I didn't hear that one.
All right. As a follow-up to a story we did 2 weeks ago about the 40% office vacancy rate in Denver,
Yeah.
we'll share with you some of the recently released startling crime statistics from that city over a recent 90-day period. We'll tell you which NFL football team is getting ready to move out of the city that it is named for and why. They're saying, bye bye. Yeah, we know we've been here for 90 years and our team's named after your city,
Yep.
but we're leaving. Um, Time permitting, we'll tell you why Act Blue, which is the Democrat fundraising organization, is in trouble for accepting and distributing donations from foreign donors in violation of federal election laws. And our taxpayer relief shot this week comes from Miami Gardens, Florida, where a neighbor shoots and kills an armed intruder who was attacking the husband of one of his neighbors. The wife comes running down and say, "Help me, help me. There's a man with a gun attacking my husband," and he gets his own gun and comes up. Anyway, um, all right. First of all, have you heard anything about? We all know that on paper, Musk became an outrage, became a trillionaire, right?
I did hear that on paper, yes.
Right, on paper. Now, um, and by the way, there's this myth among liberals that wealth is a fixed pie, and if one person becomes wealthier, it means somebody else has to be less wealthy.
That's not true.
Not true. So, as an example, let's say you're a farmer, and you're getting by, and then tomorrow they discover oil on your property, and and you sign a contract to sell the oil rights under your land, to ExxonMobil for $20 million or $100
Mhm.
million. So overnight you became $20 million richer. Is anybody $20 million poorer?
Well, the person who paid you, but
Well, no, but not really, because remember, ExxonMobil simply traded a cash asset
for a
for
tangible asset.
a tangible asset.
Yeah.
So on their balance sheet, ExxonMobil's net worth hasn't changed. But
Yeah.
you, the farmer, your net worth. So wealth is not a fixed pie. It
Hmm.
increases.
Yep.
People saying, well, Musk only got rich because he government subsidies. Now, SpaceX, which is the company that went public, they said, well, he was handed, by Trump. He bid for these contracts, and who he bid against?
I think he bid against like other like NASA.
He bid against NASA. And let me tell
Yeah.
you the cost per launch. It was costing NASA, it was costing the US government through NASA between 2.5 and 4 billion per launch. SpaceX said we'll do it for 74 million, a
Mhm.
tenth, a tenth. Cost per kilogram, and a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. It was costing the government when NASA doing it was costing them $70,000 per pound. SpaceX was doing it for $2,700 a pound. Um, were the NASA rockets reusable? No. Were the
No.
SpaceX rockets reusable? Yes, because they
Yes.
retrieve them, right?
Yeah.
Total launches to date, NASA did two, SpaceX has done 500. NASA spent 31 billion to develop, Musk spent 300 million. Um, so there's been no wealth transfer. He took an enormous gamble saying, yes, we'll take this contract and we'll launch these. This was a huge, huge, huge gamble. It's like going to Las Vegas and betting everything on one number and not betting on red or black. It's betting on like the number 17. And he won. Now, and not only that, do you know that when before SpaceX went public, it was private. And if you went to work for SpaceX as an employee, full-time employee, after a year, you got stock options. Well,
Mhm.
do you know that when SpaceX went public, 4,400 SpaceX employees became millionaires overnight?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That I saw on the news too. Yeah.
yeah. And here's the clip.
To SpaceX's historic IPO. The stock is already up 20%, making Elon Musk a trillionaire. And to put it into perspective, if you made $100,000 a year and never spent a penny to become a trillionaire, you'd have to work 10 million years. The company has also minted thousands of new millionaire employees. Senior business and tech correspondent Jolene Kent spoke with one of them.
SpaceX stock blasted off in its debut, soaring more than 19% on the NASDAQ before closing at $161 a share, making it the largest initial public offering in history.
If people had told me this was going to happen, I was like, man, you must be smoking some really good crack.
Founder and CEO Elon Musk, already the world's richest man, became the first ever trillionaire, touting his vision for the future.
SpaceX wants to be able to take you to the moon, take you to Mars, and ultimately beyond.
SpaceX, which includes the rocket company, the satellite internet provider Starlink, and xAI, also minted more than 4,400 new millionaires.
It's pretty unreal. Don't have the words, honestly.
One of them, Juan Hernandez, a welder at SpaceX for 10 years, who was paid both a salary and shares in SpaceX.
As an immigrant, I was always taught just to work hard, do the best I can, what I do. And thanks to SpaceX, you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Do you feel like you've achieved the American dream?
Yeah, but there's no reason to stop.
As for the average investor, experts
All right, I'm gonna cut it there. But again, Musk took these incredible. And by the way, SpaceX. We've talked about the Starlink satellite system that has brought internet and phone service to every
Mhm.
square inch of the earth. I mean, people in the middle of the Congo, that don't have Wi-Fi, don't have an electric. There's no cell towers. You can now communicate if you're in the middle of the Congo with a sat phone,
Yeah.
because you can if you're in a hut with a solar charger for your phone or for your if you have a solar charger in a thatched roof hut in the middle of the Congo, you can get on the internet thanks to Starlink.
Or sailboats sailing across the sea. But I
Yes.
want to applaud that immigrant they interviewed. That is the American dream. That is people coming to this country legally and working hard and earning a paycheck and providing for your family.
Yep. Absolutely. And guy's got a big smile on his face. And
Yeah. And
uh,
I saw that clip on the news. He had a wife and what, two kids, I think.
yep, absolutely.
Just good old American. He's proud
Yeah,
to be an American. He came here as an immigrant legally and
yeah,
worked hard and is
yeah.
not relying on government
Right.
payouts.
and I'm going to segue into my next related. But the point is, there are literally tens of thousands that literally hate Elon Musk.
Yeah.
They are outraged that he has become a trillionaire. Well, there was a talk show host a couple of years back called Michael Savage. I've never listened to him. I know who he is. He wrote a book titled "Liberalism is a Mental Disease." Well, that was kind of a kind of a grab you title, and it was. But guess what? A couple years later, now I'm reading now. Decades of research literature has established that the political liberals do indeed have poorer mental health and are less happy than political conservatives. Based on four different peer-reviewed studies, this disparity could be because conservatives demonstrate a more positive outlook on life and greater personal agency, religiosity, moral clarity, and self-worth than their liberal counterparts, all qualities which are associated with greater mental health, happiness, and flexibility. In other words, it's almost like being in a cult where your whole happiness and being is tied up in your political beliefs. Hey, if I think Trump's being a jerk,
Mhm.
I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to defend Trump. If he's a jerk, he's a jerk. Okay? He does stupid things, he does stupid things. But many liberals, their entire self-worth and being are tied up in their political beliefs, and they feel obligated to defend to the death everything their party does and all these stupid liberal ideas. Do you agree or disagree? Have you experienced that or seen it?
Yeah, I see it all the time, but you can't, these things are not personal.
Well, but a lot of people, their identity is so intertwined with their political beliefs, they can't separate them. So if you attack their political beliefs, I say to people, okay, well, I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree. No, with them, unless they have to win, otherwise it's like a personal failing on their part.
Mhm.
And if you prove to them that what they believed is wrong, there's anguish and wailing and gnashing of teeth and depression. And I've actually had some of the things where I've actually proved to people what you've believed for the past 2 years is factually, categorically, and demonstrably wrong, and they become depressed. Depressed. Uh, so so anyway, yeah, the research is clear. Four different studies, and I'm not saying this is all liberals, the majority of liberals, but there's a significant component of liberals who are so wrapped up, they've so intertwined their own identity and sense of self-worth with their political beliefs that when their political beliefs, are attacked or fail, they become depressed and poor, and that's where it says poor mental health. So anyway, anything you want to add before I move on?
Nope.
All right. So I'm going to play this clip. A Duke University professor asked this, and these are all Gen Z, and I had to look up one, and they're all 19, 20 something college students. They said, "All right, stand up and point north," and they're all looking at each other like, "Which way's north?" Now, if you walked out in front of your office building and I asked you to point north, could you point north?
Absolutely.
All right, now, so I didn't. So I donated blood today, and there was a young intern, a gal, and she was probably 20. And she was there, and I said, "Do you mind if I do a quick test with you?" She said, "No, go ahead." I said, "If you walked out the front door of this hospital, um, could you would you know which way is north? Could you point north?" And she said, "No." I said, "Well, and if I asked you to point which way is Pennsylvania, could you point to Pennsylvania?" She said, "No." And if I asked you to point which way is the ocean, could you point to the ocean? No. So this is absolutely the proof. And let me play this little clip of this college professor. Here we go. Duke University professor. Hang on.
I want you to face north. Today in my Asking Dumb Questions class here at Duke University, I made my students use maps. Which way do you think is north? But not Google Maps, not follow the magical voice telling you where to go. I mean, physical maps. Do you all realize that you are the first generation in thousands of years of human history that doesn't need to know where you are physically located in order to get somewhere? I brought in atlases from all 50 states. I got a present for you. Hold on. So what I have here are atlases from every state in the United States. And I gave them a series of challenges, like find turn-by-turn directions from the largest city in the state the second largest city. Do you know how to zoom in on this map? You look closer, move your head closer to the page. That's how you zoom in. This little map is totally different than using a GPS.
How's it going?
Not great.
School maps force you to orient yourself before you move, which means you have to know where you are, estimate distances, notice terrain, and most importantly, you have to make decisions. Best part about a physical map is you don't have to wait for it to load. Bad part about a physical map is the processing time is basically you. For thousands of years, humans navigated by understanding maps. Now we navigate by trusting some strange voice powered by algorithms we don't entirely understand. How long would you survive without your phone?
Like 0 seconds.
It's efficient and it's powerful, but isn't it also a massive shift in how we exist in the world? And isn't it going to massively impact how future generations behave?
We're just gonna keep going until I feel like something.
And it's kind of scary, if there was ever like an EMP, electromagnetic pulse that,
Yeah.
if you don't know where you are, like somebody, when I was working in New Jersey 15 years ago, somebody said, well, how do you get to Syracuse? I said, you go north to Albany and turn left.
Yeah.
And I was dead serious.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
go north to Albany and turn
Go
left
up
at
the
Albany.
throughway and
I'm sorry?
yeah, you go up the throughway and turn left.
Yeah, go north until you hit Albany and make a left, which is, west, and then go about 100 miles. But the fact that people are not oriented, in other words, they have no concept of where they are spatially.
Yeah.
They don't know where in New Jersey, I live in northern New Jersey. They don't know where in the state they live. They don't know how far Pennsylvania is. They don't know where the ocean is. If you said, again, I said, can you point to the ocean? Which way's the ocean? Nobody knows. I'll tell you a quick story. 25 years ago, I was traveling with my wife. We were living in Florham Park, New Jersey, and we're heading out to Poconos to see my folks. And there was a big traffic jam on Route 80. So I decided to cut through the wilderness. North Jersey has a bunch of forests. And I'm on these country roads, and there's no road signs. I come to a T intersection, and I wasn't sure which way I needed to turn. So I put the car in park. I jumped out of the car, walked over to a tree at the edge of the road, looked at the tree, got back in the car, and turned right. And my wife said, what did you just do? I said, I needed to know which way was north because I know we need to go northwest. And I looked at the tree to see which side of the tree the moss was on, because moss grows on the north side of the tree.
North side of the tree.
And the moss was on the right side of the tree, so we're turning north, which is going to take us closer to where we want to go instead of further away. And she thought I was crazy, but trust me, it was absolutely the correct turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done before. Car GPSs were so common. I mean, I've been on Interstate 80 in traffic jams and gotten off at the first exit I could get off on, and I know I need to go east, so I'll just start driving on roads that take me east.
Right, and the way you know it's east is, is where's the sun? If it's in the morning, the sun's going to be in front of you, and if it's in the evening, the sun's going to be behind you. So anyway, yep. So yeah, where's the sun? And by the way, the reason I had to look at the tree is that there was no sun. It was an overcast day. Mm-hmm. So all right. But so sad that, and you have to wonder, is that going to come to bite them in the butt someday that they don't know, they can't navigate without a phone or a GPS? Do you think that's going to bite them in the butt someday?
Oh, absolutely. There's just some life skills that kids today just don't learn that are just so valuable.
Right. All right, let's move on to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Have you ever heard of the SPLC?
Actually, well, maybe not. I don't know. Tell me.
Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center, 20, 30 years ago, set themselves up as, they're in favor, civil rights, and we're going to fight we're going to fight hate groups, we're going to expose hate groups, like the KKK and anti-Semitic groups. Mm-hmm. Well, they have morphed over the past years from what initially started out as a very noble thing to identify, hate groups. Well, they're now under they're actually under indictment by the U.S. Department of Justice, and they're subject of a congressional investigation. And here are the allegations that from 2010 to 2023, 13-year period, I'm just going to call them the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, secretly funneled $4.1 million into tax-exempt donor funds to the very hate groups it told donors it was working to dismantle, namely the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, and the National Alliance. And they routed that money to those hate groups through fictitious accounts with names like Rare Books. A few of the allegations which the SPLC is denying, but in which a jury has not weighed in on yet, is one, they paid two Ku Klux Klansmen $1,200 a month to stay in the KKK, then coaching them to claim that the money came from fake essay writing jobs. Second, routing over 1.2 million to a single source through a shell company. Third allegation, employee allegedly steering 140,000 in donor funds into a joint bank account she shared with her informant boyfriend, who was part of one of these groups, helping to pay their mortgage. And here's the part that should unsettle every donor to any charity. Across those same years, the SPLC revenue tripled from 38 million to 129 million, and the organization now sits on more than 800 million of cash with investments routed through the Cayman Islands. Yet the Charity Navigator still rates it as a 4-star, 98% charity, including a perfect 100 score for no material diversion of assets.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to play you a little clip of a congressional hearing, and this is separate from the DOJ, which is going to be a jury trial. But I want you to notice something very clever. He's asked by the committee chairman, Congressman Jim Jordan, did you or didn't? He's asking for a yes or no answer. And he says, my organization denies those allegations. Now, what's the difference? Now, you're under oath at a congressional hearing. And what's the difference between my organization denies those allegations and a yes or no? What happens if you just say no? You still there?
Yeah. Wait, say that again? What?
He's asked a yes/no question. Do you deny that your organization was funneling money to these groups? That's a yes or no question, Jim Jordan says. And
Yeah.
rather than answer yes or no, he answers instead, my organization denies those allegations. Now, there's a very
He was a question though.
right, but the point is, there's a very specific legal difference between saying no and my organization denies those allegations. And what's the legal difference between those two answers?
Well,
You're under oath.
it's almost like the Fifth Amendment of like you're not
Yeah.
incriminating yourself.
Well, and here's the difference. If he says no, and it can be proven that they were, you just committed perjury.
Perjury.
Right. By
And
saying,
if you say yes, then you incriminate yourself.
and you say yes, you're admitting that your organization was doing something wrong.
So
But
it's
by
a
saying,
form of the Fifth Amendment, sort of.
yeah, he's saying my organization denies those allegations, which is a true statement. His organization, when they denied those allegations, they
But
were
he's
not
not
under
saying yes
oath.
or no.
They were not under oath. So they can deny all day long. And as long as they're not under oath, they're not committing perjury. He's under oath. And if he says, no, we didn't do that, and it
Mhm.
was proven that they did, he committed perjury.
Yeah.
And so listen very, very carefully how cute this guy gets when he's asked this question. Here we go.
Did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor money to have field sources create new chapters of extremist groups?
Again, Mr. Chairman,
Did the Southern Poverty Law Center use donor money to recruit new individuals into those extremist groups?
I assume you don't want me to answer since you're not giving me time to answer.
No, I'm giving you time to answer because that's a yes. Did you use your donors' money for that purpose? Yes or no?
Again, those issues will be resolved in the pending allegations against the SPLC.
It seems to me if the answer is no, you could say no.
We have asserted that the allegations are false.
We have asserted that the
Asserted.
allegations are false. Is that a yes or no answer?
No.
All right, here we go.
Southern Poverty Law Center used donor money to have field sources make donations to extremist group leaders and purchase materials for cross burnings. It's alleged in the indictment. Did it happen?
We've alleged that those allegations are false.
Now, if they were false and you knew they were false, wouldn't you just say, no, we
Yeah.
did not? No.
Yeah, that's what you would say. But
no,
he would then perjure himself.
right. He perjuring himself. So clearly the answer is yes, because if they were no, he would have said absolutely not no, but he's not saying no. He's saying we deny those allegations because that denial didn't come under oath. All right. How much time we got?
About 10 minutes.
All right, let me go to something very similar. Act Blue, which is the congressional fundraising organization, which is under federal election laws, is not supposed to take or distribute money from foreign donors. List how many times the head of that organization pleads the Fifth Amendment. Here we go.
Your board chairman said ActBlue accepted up to 38 million contributions in 2024 that had the signs of foreign origin. How much fraud is too much fraud?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
How many foreign contributions did ActBlue accept?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
How much money did ActBlue accept from Russia?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Why did your entire legal team quit? Your in-house legal team?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Did your legal team quit because of reduced fraud standards?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Understand. And we won't keep you here all day, but let me just do one more. Did you weaken your fraud standards to help Democrats?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully.
We don't need to. But at one point, he asked her name, and she answered the same thing. She declined to answer.
Really?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Is your name Ms. Wallace Jones, and are you the chief executive officer of ActBlue? And she invoked the same Fifth Amendment.
How do you incriminate yourself with your own name?
Right. All right. I'm going to do these real quick. Air Canada. Now, this guy was a pilot, but you've got a driver's license, but does that qualify you to drive a tractor trailer?
No, actually, you need a CDL to drive a tractor trailer.
Same thing to fly a multi-engine jet carrying passengers for hire. I'm a pilot. I have a commercial pilot's license.
Yep.
And although I might have the skills to fly a 737, I am not legally
able to.
I'm not legally able to, nor should I, because there's a lot of training that should go into flying it. Well, this guy, he was flying twin turboprops, whatever, I think he was a flight instructor. He got hired by Air Canada. He actually faked on a printer, it's called an air transport. And by the way, even though you're an airline pilot, if you're certified to fly a 737, you can't fly a 757. There's something called a type rating. Every different jet you fly, you have to be type rated for. And this guy not only did he fake his air transport, he kept faking type rating. So if you want to go from a 737 to an Airbus A320, you have to get certified in that. Anyway,
I feel like isn't there like this national database that has like what everybody who's licensed and what you're eligible to fly?
Well, apparently Canada doesn't have that, and Air Canada never checked it. And the reason he retired suddenly last year is Air Canada announced they were going to do a credentials review, and he said, "Oh crap, I better retire." But he thought that would save him. It didn't, because it saved him anyway. Now he's been indicted by Canada for fraud and reckless endangerment.
Does the United States have like a database that way?
Yeah, you can go on, you can check. Just go to FAA.gov. You can check pilot certificate. If you want to see if I have a pilot's license, go to FAA.gov. You will see my pilot's certificate and the ratings I hold. Okay. All right. Real quick, Denver, remember we talked about 40% occupancy rate and the taxes? Well, guess what? From March 1st to May 30th, which is 92 days, you know how many people got shot or stabbed in the city of Denver in 90 days?
10.
54 people shot, 16 dead, 29 stabbed.
Wow.
In 90 days. So you wonder why. Oh, and they found 2 more people dead with no cause of death listed. Can you imagine? That's basically one person a day getting shot or stabbed, and you wonder why businesses don't want to.
Yeah, I had no idea it was that high.
That's basically one a day. 54 shots, 16 of whom died, 29 people stabbed, and 2 more people found dead with no cause of death listed. All right. Chicago Bears have been in Soldier Field in Chicago for 90. Well, I think it's the third iteration of Soldier Field. They're basically saying goodbye to the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
They've committed to move. They're either going to move to Arlington Heights, Illinois, or quite possibly Hammond, Indiana. Now, it's only about 35 miles from Chicago to Hammond, Indiana. It's just
Yeah.
over the border.
Yeah.
But they're saying goodbye, Chicago. We've had enough. So the Chicago Bears. Now, New Jersey, the New York Giants still play in New Jersey. They still call themselves the New York Giants.
Well,
So
and they
I
started
guess
off in Connecticut.
what?
They started off in Connecticut.
They did.
What were they called in Connecticut? I wasn't alive then.
I don't know, but anyway,
Were they the Connecticut Giants or were
I
they
have
still
no
the New York
idea.
Giants?
I made just the Giants. All right. Hey, we're running out of time. I just want to go right to our taxpayer. This comes to Miami, but Miami Gardens, Florida, and here you go.
Tonight, police cleared the scene of a deadly overnight shooting, but their investigation continued into the evening. Investigators say it appears that a neighbor tried to help another neighbor who was being robbed when he was shot and killed the intruder. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jawan Strader. NBC6's Jamie Garola is live in Miami Gardens tonight. But how it all played out, Jamie.
Yeah, it all unfolded on this street here overnight. We're told that the people involved were taken to the police department this evening for questioning.
Pow, pow, pow.
That's how a neighbor describes the gunshots that woke her up in Miami Gardens Tuesday around 1 a.m.
I look out the window and I see all the flashing lights.
I passed 37th Avenue. I've seen all the lights. I said, oh my God.
When police arrived, they found a man shot in the head, dead. That man, they believe, attempted to rob a homeowner who answered the door. Investigators say the two got into a fight, and the homeowner's girlfriend ran to a neighbor's for help.
I walked all the way out. I saw the caution tape.
At some point, the intruder fired a shot. That's when police say the neighbor shot and killed the suspect.
So nothing really happens over here. It's a very quiet neighborhood. Everybody knows everybody.
So the bad guy shoots at the neighbor shoots back. That's why target practice pays, because the bad guy missed and the neighbor shot hit. All right. All right, we're running out of time. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, Susan, as always, I appreciate your help. Thanks for everybody who listened, for giving up 30 minutes out of your day to listen to me ramble on about the things I find of interest and importance. If you want to see some of the show materials or story links you heard me talk about today, give producer Susan a couple of days, and you'll find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzee-joe.com. That's J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, Jerzee, jerzee-joe.com. If you'd like to get on the distribution list for the podcast, or you'd like me to send you any of these story links directly, any of the video links or audio links, just send me an email to joe at jerzee-joe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and two E's. And with that, producer Susan, if you've got nothing else, I'll sign off and talk to you next week. Are you good?
All right. Yep.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, here we go.